concerns for the British royal family of Prince Harry heading back to the UK to see his father. Buckingham Palace announcing King Charles has cancer. The announcement coming after he had a prostate procedure just last month. A royal source telling CNN the king does not have prostate cancer, but the palace did not specify the type of cancer he does have. They say the king will step back from his public-facing duties, but will keep carrying out his constitutional role. Here with me with more, Trisha Goddard, host of The Week with Trisha Goddard. Trisha, thank you so much for being here today. We're hearing this news this morning and today, this after the recent news, of course, about the procedure he had. Harry is going to visit his father, and we all are very familiar now with that very strained relationship. What does that say about the seriousness, then, of the king's condition?
Well, for one thing, any parent who tells their family, their children that they've got cancer, the kids are going to, want to be by their parents' side. I think what will be telling is whether other members of the royal family are increasingly involved in carrying out appointments that the king would otherwise make. This has been a really tumultuous time for the royal family because if you remember, the Duchess of York first had breast cancer. That turned out to be melanoma. And then we've had Princess Kate in hospital for abdominal surgery. And initially, William was going to step back, so he's more of a hands-on father, obviously, than his own dad was. And now it's been announced. Just before we got this cancer diagnosis announced that Prince William would be stepping in and actually doing more, of the king's royal appointments.
And the palace has said that Queen Camilla will step up while the king undergoes his treatment. But Trisha, what does happen if the king is too ill to do his duties, even for a short amount of time? Does somebody else step in fully?
Yes, he has. It can be Prince William, it can be the Princess Royal, Princess Anne, it can be Camilla. They can all step in, but still they've probably already got pretty packed diaries as it is. One wonders, and wouldn't it be great if Harry, while in the UK, could start doing some of those duties? And I think if he did, it would go an enormous way to sort of welcome him back into the royal family.
The number of working royals, as they say, I think is the phrase that's used, who travel to represent the monarchy really has dwindled in recent years, in part because Prince Harry and Prince Andrew are out of action. But now the king will be sidelined, even temporarily. And there's this quote attributed to the late Queen Elizabeth, that the monarchy has to be, quote, seen to be believed. And so you think about all that's going on right now, how does this impact how the public perceives them if they're not as visible?
Well, they're not as visible, but I think they've probably become more relatable, dare I say, through illness, showing that they're mortal. So many people, there's a figure out that says 1 in 2 people around the world will go through a cancer situation in their lives, never mind about the families around it. So in many ways, I think, looking at the media and looking at the comments online, people are shocked because this kind of view that the royal family is invincible, immortal. And now it's shown they can get ill just like us. And, one of the reasons that King Charles actually spoke about his enlarged prostate is because as a 75-year-old man, there are thousands and thousands of men who have, similar situations. And the websites online said there was a huge uptick in people seeking out signs and symptoms and early diagnosis and what have you. I mean, it's the sort of publicity, preventative health publicity that cancer organizations and charities can only dream of. I'm not saying that, I'm saying that for the average person in the street, I actually think their hearts will warm towards the royal family. A lot of Republicans have been saying online, well, I'm a Republican and normally I wouldn't care. However, my uncle, my aunt, somebody in my family went through a cancer diagnosis, and you know what? My heart is there for them.
That's really important. And to use the platform for this really extraordinary means and reason, you cannot escape that. And we do need to raise awareness at all costs for any reason. Really quick, though, Trisha, you mentioned Kate. Do we know anything about the abdominal surgery or the why? We still haven't heard reporting as to the source of the surgery or the why, right? Is that odd?
No. Well, I can kind of understand it. I think it's very different from a 75-year-old man with grown-up children to a woman in her early 40s with very young children. We don't know what the issue is around it, and nor should we have to. I think we've forgotten that the royals are first. I mean, this is something I'm always going on about, you know, with the falling out between Harry and William and what have you. It is a royal family. And it doesn't matter how many bits of gold and jewelry you have on your head, you are a family. And when you have health concerns, I think there's a grieving. Well, there is a grieving for what could have been, how you would have been, what you normally would have been doing. And it takes different people different amounts of time to be able to face that themselves, to tell their families, to deal with it, to deal with very young children and explain it to them. And then, if at all, to feel comfortable enough to come out and say, you know, this is what I'm going through. So, I mean, we can't hurry, nor should we wish to hurry a very real, a very human process.
Well, as a mother, I value my privacy and the conversations I would have with my children. Yeah. And so I certainly understand that desire to do so, even if one has a title of sorts. Trisha Goddard, thank you so much for joining us.